Okay, you're live.
Hello, everyone. It is JJ here with our special Wheel of Fear live stream, and Eric side. If I could swing the camera. Oh wait, I hear myself. We're making sure that you can hear me before I begin. And it sounds like we can, because I've just heard myself in 3 different spots.
All right, go ahead.
Okay. Yes, Eric is producing off to the side, so he's making sure all systems are go. And I have literally just finished the slide. So I'm JJ. I'm a life coach. And for the last 3 years, I have been eating mostly meat. And that has helped me regain so much of my vitality, so much of my joy and peace of mind. Yet, like I said, I'm a life coach. So this is actually peace of mind. Joy is something I've been working on for decades and even became a life coach and help other people do that as well. And train other life coaches. So we have done a couple special videos about one of the core concepts in the whole life coaching paradigm I use that is called the Wheel of Fear. So today you're going to discover your very own Wheel of Fear. I have a whole slide deck here. Let's go ahead and dive in. All right. So welcome. This is the, it's backwards. That is interesting.
Is it backwards?
Mhm. One moment.
No, it's fine.
Okay. On Eric's screen, all the words showed up backwards in mirror image. So we wanted to make sure it was okay for you. So I'll bring that back up. So we are JJ and Eric Carnivore Show. I am half of that. Oops. And this is a special crossover event about living your best life. So normally we focus on how we fuel our best life through eating carnivore, keto, that proper human diet spectrum. And this training today is actually about the root cause for how we trip ourselves up with any goal at all. So this could be our lifestyle goals, our eating, our fitness, but any goal at all, which is what I love about the Wheel of Fear. So many clients I've worked with have talked about how, they get to this point where they self-sabotage. And so this is gonna address that right off the bat. So this Wheel of Fear is going to unlock the unique hidden pattern that secretly sabotages your best life that should be. And this is, again, whether diet, fitness, relationships, career, retirement, whatever area of life you're looking at. Now, this live stream, I know many of you listen to us like we're a podcast, and go ahead and do that. I'm not telling you to leave. But if you can, actually be prepared to take notes or jot things down, actually participate in the exercises that I have for you today. So let's talk first about the word trigger. So you've probably heard people say, I'm so triggered. That person triggered me. Oh, I am so triggered today. And maybe you have even said it yourself. It really is part of our vernacular to talk about being triggered. And we have some certain symptoms. And hold on, my slide, I can't quite see the bottom. One moment while there we go. That's the setting I was looking for. Okay. So we have talked about the symptoms of being triggered on this very show as being impatient, exhausted, self-righteous, misunderstood, paranoid, paralyzed, shamed, defeated, confused, out of control, overwhelmed, or victimized. So anytime you're feeling these feelings like that, it's a sign that you're triggered. And you might have said something like, oh, I'm so triggered, right? But there could be something else as well. There could be other feelings that come up for you when you're triggered. These are some of the top ones. But I'm wondering, for you, what are your top 3 symptoms of being triggered? And I'd love for you to jot them down for yourselves and also put them in the chat. We have a chat, don't we?
Yep.
All right, just checking. So how do you know when you're triggered? What feelings come up for you? I know mine isn't actually on this list, but it's kind of close to one of those. Overwhelm is definitely one of mine, but my top one is frustrated. When I hired my first Fearless Living life coach, 20 years ago now, I told my friend, I revealed to one of my close friends that I was going to hire a life coach. And she said, "Oh, I'm so glad because you are just always frustrated." And I was like, "Really?" And I thought about it and was like, "Yeah, that is the word I use all the time. How are you? I'm so frustrated. I'm so frustrated." So what are your key trigger words? So again, I'd say overwhelmed for me. Frustrated was definitely in the vocabulary in the past, not as much anymore. And let's see. Exhausted was huge for me in the past, also defeated. Now I would say in addition to overwhelmed, confusion is one for me that comes up. Things don't add up. So I feel confused.
We've got some chats volunteering their triggers.
Okay.
You want to hear them?
I do. Let's hear how you feel when you're triggered.
So Melody is saying yes, frustrated.
Yep.
And Joe Art is saying overwhelmed, definitely. Cravings and irritation.
Oh, irritation. Yes. Cravings. Good. Yes. Excellent.
Feel like my blood pressure is going up.
Yes. It can be a visceral response as well. Absolutely.
Out of control.
Yep. And embarrassed. Yes. That kind of ties in with that shamed. Embarrassed. Yes, Melanie. Excellent. Excellent. All right. Thank you for playing along. All right. So those are some symptoms that you're being triggered. Now this is... Oops.
No, you're fine.
Okay. Just double checking. We got a message that I might be frozen or something. So we're just double checking.
Good.
Okay. So those are symptoms. And this is good news is if you're very familiar with your symptoms. My next question for you. We know what it feels like when we're triggered. Now, when do you experience those symptoms the most? Is it with your family or a certain member of your family? Is it when you're at work or when you're on social media or driving, rush hour traffic, when you see a certain neighbor, when it's the holidays, when you're paying bills maybe, or maybe you just wake up in the middle of the night feeling that way? So when do you experience those symptoms the most? When do you experience those symptoms the most? I would have to say that for me, right now, in the past, it was work, often work. Eric was probably over here nodding about that. Yes, often work. The holidays can be stressful. I think I roll through those better now than I used to. I do have certain family members still that sometimes trigger me. I would say he's giving me a look. Absolutely.
That's what family's for.
That is kind of what family is for. Yeah. Deadline. I have had some big work projects this year. And while I love my work, when I'm on deadline, that is not a good thing for me. I definitely experience feeling triggered at that time. So go ahead, jot it down for yourself and also put into the chat, when do you feel triggered? Or with whom, or in what circumstances, what events cause those triggering feelings to come up? We have in work, and I'm being pressured into doing too much. Yes, yes. Holy cow, I get that one. Family, yep. Yes. And yes, exactly. So write down for yourself when you feel triggered the most. And I've got a little diagram here that goes along with that type of thing. So here we are in our own little cloud feeling triggered. I just put some of the words here, not all of them. We're feeling confused or impatient or frustrated or irritated or whatever it might be. And we have those feelings and we're pointing going, whenever I'm with family, whenever it's the holidays, when I'm at work, when my boss does this, when I take on too much. We're pointing, oh yes, family stress. We've got more coming in. Let me pull this down. Let's see. When friends, family, people I care about disapprove of something I believe in, like eating a lot of meat. That one gets me too, Melanie. Family stress, yes. When I try to work on something important to me, yes, absolutely. So it's really good to understand when we're in this type of a situation where we feel like there are all these externals that are causing us to feel this way. And what happens is we tend to try to address all those different things. So that leaves us on this endless treadmill of trying to manage all of these feelings and all of these circumstances to create a life where thriving instead of survival mode. But when you understand how your wheel of fear operates, and we're going to get into that in just a moment, you don't have to manage everything. This is the beauty of this system, is instead of trying to work on all these different things, and of course, all those different things are still present in your life. They're still there, but you don't have to try to manage them all anymore. You get to focus on one thing only. Not all of these different things, just one thing. And that is your wheel of fear. Your wheel of fear. So I am a master certified fearless living coach. I was trained by the Fearless Living Institute. So it is all about that root cause of fear. And when we're able to master fear, we can live a life in which we're able to thrive and have much more joy and peace of mind and energy and vitality and all of those things that we also are striving for with our way of eating, with our dietary lifestyle. Now, really interesting, we use the word master very specifically in Fearless Living because we are born with fears. It is part of our neurobiology. It is what keeps us safe. So we all like to talk about ancestral eating and that sort of thing. So we pull out the idea of the saber-toothed lion and all those things. And it's good to have those fears because we don't just walk into the lion's den. No, we understand the fear. We adapt to the fact that we're living in an environment with lions way back when, right? And we learn what to do with that. And we were able to survive and become the humans we are now, the civilization we are now. So fear is not something we can get rid of. Instead, we really want to learn about it and, again, master it and understand our own patterns, which is why I'm already asking you about your fear symptoms and where and when they show up the most. So today, our plan today is to walk through the 4 different components of the wheel of fear. So you'll see on the left-hand side, number 1 is the trigger. Also, we call it the core trigger. Number 2 is fear responses. Number 3 is the core negative feeling. And number 4 is self-destructive behaviors. And you'll see they are a wheel because they sort of cycle. They keep going. The wheel keeps turning if we aren't able to recognize this pattern and move off of our wheel of fear, master our wheel of fear. You'll also notice, this is kind of just a little aside, the arrows are all pointing to the right. And that's because this is sort of that righty-tighty. If you've ever done, when you're working with tools, it's righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. This is tighty, right? Because all of those fear symptoms we talked about already, those symptoms were triggered, they tend to get us tense and tight and worked up. Now, there is an important thing. Like I said, knowing your wheel of fear is so incredibly valuable because once you know it, you can't unknow it. Once you know it, you can't unknow it. So there's no more blaming things that we can't control. There's no more thinking we're not good enough or not disciplined enough or just plain old broken. And instead, we can see it as a predictable pattern, that biological program we all have as part of being human. So knowledge is power, because when we're aware of this pattern that is part of our neurobiology, it usually brings reduced reactivity. Can I promise that in every instance the rest of your life? No, I cannot make that promise. But generally speaking, you have reduced reactivity. You have the option to do some sort of a pattern interrupt. You can stop yourself anywhere on this wheel of fear. So ideally, you're catching that symptom right away when you're being triggered, and you're stopping it at number 1. But you might even go into number 2 and notice your fear responses. Number 3, notice when your feelings start to take a nosedive, or even when you're engaging in those self-destructive behaviors. So you can do a pattern interrupt. And when you do that, you have freedom now. Instead of just being stuck in this cycle, you actually have the conscious choice where you can choose differently. You can pivot your behavior or your response, or you can even consciously choose to stay in the pattern. Now, why would someone do that? I've spoken to you before I gave up gluten, 14 years ago, before I gave up gluten, that was my first dietary shift that really made a difference in my life. I spent most of my days in bed. I was so utterly exhausted, not only because I was poisoning myself with gluten and didn't know it, but also because I was running these type A patterns where I was overly responsible to everyone else. I was working myself too hard. I didn't know how to say no. All these things that left me on my back and so depleted. So the reason I'm saying that is there are times when you just may not have the stamina or the capacity in this moment to choose differently. And you'll say, you know what? Here I am. I'm on my wheel of fear. I see it. And today is not the day that I can make that pivot. Now, what this does, no matter what you choose, having this knowledge gives you external autonomy. It's no longer about having the outside world battering you. You suddenly have choice. You understand the pattern and you have these choices. Again, even if you choose to stay where you're at for the moment, you have choice, that external autonomy, and you have internal sovereignty. You have this understanding of your own internal world, and you can make shifts and choices based on that. So this is huge. This is why knowing your wheel of fear can impact all areas of your life, all areas of your life. And I'm betting that you have areas of your life where you're on top of things. You're doing really great, no problem. And then you have those other areas where you're not quite there yet. So let's use an example. We are a keto carnivore channel. So I want to use an example that's probably pretty common to us about what happens when you know your wheel of fear. So let's say it's the holidays and you fall off the wagon. You didn't intend to, you just did. Your aunt served you pie and she guilted you into doing it, right? That's the old wheel of fear story. Well, once you understand your patterns, there's no more blaming your aunt for guilting you into eating off plan. She may never change. This is really important because she may never change. She is not a factor that you can control at all. And we can also recognize that she has her own wheel of fear. We may not know the components, but she may feel that connection to you through that apple pie. And that connection might be really important to her, and that's why she's doing the guilting. So suddenly we have this whole perspective shift, not only for ourselves, but around other people in our lives. Again, there's no more blaming yourself for a lack of willpower, because even if you gave into the pie, you weren't planning to, it isn't about the lack of discipline or a lack of willpower. Blaming yourself has never worked in the past, and it's not going to work now to just beat yourself up with negative self-talk and blame yourself. Instead, you get option 3, which is you go, the wheel of fear. That was my wheel of fear at choice. And again, now once you know it, you can hopefully make a conscious choice. So either way, you can either say no, right? Stick to your guns, say no. Or if you say yes, you understand that you were doing it as a connection to your aunt. And there are no hard feelings toward your aunt and no regret over the choice you made. So again, this is all about your autonomy and your sovereignty. You are actively making choices and not getting stuck in this wheel pattern. So ultimately, here's the shift. When you see the pattern, you can disarm it if you'd like, right? And your transformation or transformation, as I like to say, it doesn't come from fixing yourself. It comes from seeing yourself clearly. It comes from understanding how you work. And again, even if you say yes to your aunt's pie this year, next year you're going to have an even better understanding. And the year after that, you're going to have an even better understanding. And you're going to make choices that align with you. And in this moment, it might align with your health journey. And in the next moment, it might align with the fact that you want to connect deeply with your aunt over this apple pie. And either way, like I said, no regrets, no blame. Now, as I mentioned, the wheel of fear is something that's built into our survival mechanisms. So it's about survival mode, not thriving. Your wheel of fear does not care if you're happy. It does not care if you have inner peace, peace of mind, if you're joyful. It doesn't care if you're hitting your goals or not. All it cares about is that you are safe. And not only that you are safe, but that you are safe in this moment, which is why health goals can go awry. Because it wants to keep you in patterns that you are used to or your comfort zone. Now, we're not going to talk about our comfort zone today, but if you know me, if you've been around the channel a while, you know I like to talk about the comfort zone a lot. Your wheel of fear loves you staying in the status quo, doing the same thing over and over and over again, even if it doesn't feel good. Because it's about surviving, not thriving. And what you've done so far, you're still alive. It's worked, thinks the wheel of fear. So the wheel of fear is about protection. And it's really important here because I talked about that saber-toothed tiger, right? It is healthy to have those physical fears to keep us physically safe. But your wheel of fear treats emotional fears the same way it treats a physical fear. So while it's afraid of jumping into traffic, right? Your body doesn't want to do that. Jumping off a cliff, even if you're bungee jumping, right? And you are safe, your body will probably have a reaction not to jump off that cliff. It treats any emotional hurts the same way. It does not want you to be hurt by someone. It does not want you to feel disappointed, feel like a failure, feel like you're a loser. It is protecting you from those feelings as well. So what it does, like I mentioned, is that your wheel of fear only knows that what you've done up to now has kept you alive. It's kept you safe. So it predicts the future only based on the past, and especially on past hurts. So it remembers when the kids laughed at you in 3rd grade because you answered the question wrong in front of the teacher and your teacher was disappointed. It remembers that hurt and it says, no, never again. We never want you to feel that way again. So it creates all these little fear responses we'll talk about in a moment to try to protect you from feeling that way. And projection. It projects expectations about how things should be, how things should happen, how people should behave in the present moment. And there is no, that prediction, that projection, there's no way of knowing what's going to happen or what that person is going to do. And while this is useful, it's a useful analytical skill to be able to project and predict. It closes us off to possibilities. Because when we think our aunt is going to offer that pie because she's done it for the 20 years in the past, we're going in there with a preconceived notion and probably a preconceived attitude. And while we can't change our aunt, who knows? Maybe this is the year that she doesn't make the pie. Or maybe this is the year you say no and she says, that's fine. You can have some fruit instead, or cheese, or whatever. We don't know. But when we are in our wheel of fear, on our wheel of fear, all those possibilities are shut off. It keeps us tunnel visioned on what it thinks is going to happen. So as I said, knowing your wheel of fear is not about having to deal with all these different things and manage all these different feelings internally and all the external circumstances and people. It's about mastering the one thing. So for me, when I discovered my wheel of fear so many years ago, about 20 years ago, it became my foundational map for self-mastery. It's a major part of my decision making, and it's how I move through the world with mostly inner joy, peace of mind, and well-being. And I say mostly because we are all having a human reality experience here. So it's not, again, I'm not promising 100% bliss all the time, right? But it makes life a whole heck of a lot better. Professionally, it has also been my foundational map for my life coaching career. So for nearly 20 years, even though I've educated myself in different frameworks and different systems, and I bring those into my work, everything always boils down to the same foundation of fear. And everything fits in there, and then I'm able to choose how to move out of the wheel of fear and make those conscious choices. So it has been instrumental in my life. Now, I first came upon fearless living and this concept back when I was on maternity leave. I was nursing my daughter, and you know already from being with me on this channel that I'm interested in like health stuff, right? And I've always been. And also doctor shows. Like if they're doing a surgery, I'm all there. I'm watching the whole thing. If I'm getting my blood drawn, I'm like, oh, cool, right? It's just how I am. So I'm on the couch nursing my child, and I'm flipping through the TV channels, and all of a sudden there's a person at a doctor, and I stopped. And what I didn't know was this person had visited the doctor's clinic. I don't even remember why. Her name was PJ. I'm JJ, so there was another little hook. I was like, oh, it's a PJ. And what I didn't know was I was watching one of the first reality TV shows ever. It was on NBC, and it was called Starting Over. And that, it's a show where I think it was a number of women, I can't remember exactly how, 8, 10 women lived in a house for like 3 months. And they saw a psychologist, and they also saw a life coach. And over that 3 months, their life was transformed. Now, I honestly don't know if I would have ever found the show if I hadn't seen the doctor scene that drew me in with PJ. But one of the life coaches on that show was Rhonda Britton. And Rhonda Britton helped birth the life coaching industry. I had never heard of a life coach before this. And it turns out that she was one of the first life coaches in the world. She had written, by this time, she had written the book Fearless Living, which is the large image on the left. And here in the middle, you can see she's on the Starting Over set with another coach, Yanla, and the psychologist, Dr. Stan. And she created the Fearless Living Life Coach Certification Program. She's a repeat guest on Oprah and many other, Steve Harvey and many other shows as well. And she was a pioneer in the industry. Life coaching did not really exist until this show blew it open wide. So from that show, I said, gee, I need a life coach bad. I started to see these patterns.
You needed a life coach pretty bad. We have people who remember it.
All right. Ah, yes, Darzilla. I love that show. Melanie, I remember Starting Over. I bought Rhonda's book, Fearless Living, when it first came out. I no longer had it. I just bought another copy. Yes, and that is why I actually wanted to put that especially on the screen, is because the Wheel of Fear we're talking about today is from the Fearless Living book. And I now work for the Fearless Living. I'm a subcontractor for Fearless Living Institute all these years later. And I help train coaches and help create their life coach certification curriculum as well, along with some of their other programs. We just launched a great tools certification program where I was the impetus to bring 40 of Rhonda's greatest tools together into one package. It's awesome. So yeah, we just launched that a couple weeks ago. So I work with Rhonda now. Holy cow, pinch me, the 20-year-ago me, right? Like I meet with Rhonda all the time. We hang out together. It's amazing. So she started this whole concept, and really what it was for her was a download. She downloaded the Wheel of Fear and some of the other tools we're not going to talk about today because we're keeping it tight toward the Wheel of Fear. But when she realized that, Rhonda's history was that, I'll try to be brief on this, but when she was 14 years old, she was the only witness to her father killing her mother and then committing suicide. And needless to say, she was messed up for a long time. And she was alcoholic, DUIs, suicide attempts, etc. And so eventually she realized that that was not working for her. I thought I heard Eric. That was not working for her. And that if she wasn't very good, I think she says, if I'm not very good at dying, I better get good at living. And so she started to study spiritual traditions and the life coaches that were there at the time. And she ended up getting this download about the Wheel of Fear and sort of the message that there really was nothing wrong with her. Even though she witnessed this horrible event, had this huge trauma in her life, there was nothing wrong with her. It was just her fear. It's just fear. And again, when you're able to do that, when you're able to make that shift, that transformation, that shift, you see yourself clearly, you stop blaming others and you stop blaming yourself. So that's a little bit about the person who created this method. Let's dive in. And the reason we are here today is so that I can support you in discovering your own Wheel of Fear so that you can have that shift. So we're going to start with number 1, your core trigger. So your core trigger, I've got the guy here. I think it's a guy. Yeah, he's saying, don't look at me, right? Because the core fear, I'm jumping to the second bullet point right now, is that you wouldn't want anyone to ever believe this is true about you. It's something you want to hide. And it is the specific threat your Wheel of Fear system was designed to detect. It's all built around this core fear. So what do? You avoid this core trigger, or you work really hard to prove it wrong. And the thing about your core trigger is that it feels very urgent. It feels like you've got to take care of it right now. And it activates your fear responses. I'm going to take a quick drink. So we're going into an activity now. If you've got your paper, have it out. I'm going to present a bunch of the core triggers. You saw a little sneak preview, and they each have a number by them. So what I'm going to want you to do is when I read through these, I want you to write down the number for now. We'll come back and get the words that go with it, but write down the number for now. So I'm going to start with a list of 5. And I want you to choose the 2 worst numbers from this list of 5. Now wait till I read them, because I want you to see what you feel in your body. Now, what you might feel might be something really visceral, or it might be confusion, numbness, like I don't even know what you're talking about type thing. Either of those extremes is something to take note of. So I couldn't bear it if I did something that gave the impression that I'm, number 1, that I'm someone whose words, actions, and persona lacked general depth and weren't rooted in truth. I couldn't bear it if I did something that gave the impression that I'm someone who messes things up. Number 2, who isn't trustworthy. Who isn't trustworthy to follow because they aren't thorough or sharp enough to do things right. Number 3, I couldn't bear it if I did something that gave the impression that I'm someone who is forgettable, whose presence doesn't even register, who is easy to ignore. Number 4, I couldn't bear it if I did something that gave the impression that I'm someone who takes shortcuts, shirks responsibility, is unreliable, and isn't willing to put in the necessary effort. And number 5, I couldn't bear it if I did something that gave the impression that I'm someone who doesn't measure up, who falls short, and who fails to meet expectations. So out of those 5, which are the 2 that feel like the worst? That feel like the worst.
Well, you got an answer for me.
You got an answer? Number 1 and number 2 for Eric. And you can go ahead and share them in the chat if you'd like. Yep, number 1 and number 2.
You're not obligated to.
No, you don't have to. You can keep this totally personal as well. I'm going to give you a few more moments. Don't overthink it. Just what is your first response? What is your first response? I'll give you a moment more and then I'm going to shift it here in just a moment. Melanie, number 1 and number 5. Number 1 and number 5. All right. And we have Tanya. Sorry if I mispronounced. Number 3 and 5. Number 3 and 5.
Do you usually see certain combos
Yeah, there can be certain combos. Yeah.
that are like more common?
Yeah, because, there are some that are. I'll just leave it at that. I don't want to lead anything.
2 and 5.
We've got another one,
That's a
number
lot of
2 and
variety,
5.
But a lot of 5s.
Yeah, lots of 5s, some 1s. Yeah. So we're going to move on to the next screen. It's going to be the same thing. It's going to be number 6 through number 10. And again, I will read through them and then give you some time afterwards. All right. Uh-oh. No, that's not the one. That's not the one. Uh-oh, maybe I lost it. Oh, I found it.
Jord is a 1 and 5.
Okay.
And,
Oh, one's pretty good too.
And
Oh,
1 and 4.
Yeah, 1s and 5s are big.
where's the rest of our 2s?
All right, let's move on then. I've got it ready. Here we go. Number 6 through 10. Number 6. I couldn't bear it if I did something that gave the impression that I'm someone who is average, easily replaceable, and has nothing distinctive to contribute. So again, you're going to choose the 2 worst from this grouping. Someone who is average, easily replaceable, and has nothing distinctive to contribute. Number 7. I couldn't bear it if I did something that gave the impression that I'm someone who is unwanted, unlovable, and easily cast aside. Number 8. I couldn't bear it if I did something that gave the impression that I'm someone who is self-serving, takes more than they give, puts themselves first, and ignores others' needs. Number 9. I couldn't bear it if I did something that gave the impression that I'm someone who is naive, foolish, uninformed, always says the wrong thing, and just doesn't get it. I couldn't bear it if I did something that gave the impression that I'm number 10, someone who is needy, fragile, overlooked, or breaks under pressure. So choose the 2 numbers that for you are the worst. Ebony says 8 and 9. Eric, 9 and 10. Darzilla, 9 and 10. Interesting. Lots of 9s in this group.
Maybe it's a low carb thing that we're always defending ourselves, being accused of being foolish and uninformed.
That could be.
Yeah.
That could be.
Look at this. Linda,
Go ahead. Can you take those? I'm going to just double check my next slide.
9
so that I
hit
don't-
hard for Linda. Joe Art, 9 and 10.
Wow.
I think it's a carnivore thing. Joss K, 9 and 10. Crazy.
Wow.
We have Tanya has 6 and 10.
6. Nice. All right.
Interesting.
Interesting. All right. So now we're moving on to the next exercise. Same thing. You're going to jot down the 3 worst numbers this time. Okay? I'm going to read them again. You're looking for those visceral responses or just a blank, even the like deer in the headlights type thing. It would be devastating if someone I loved or respected thought that, number 1, I'm a fake. It would be devastating if someone I loved or respected thought that, number 2, I'm incompetent. Number 3, it would be devastating if someone I loved or respected thought that I'm invisible. Number 4, it would be devastating if someone I loved or respected thought that I'm lazy. Number 5, it would be devastating if someone I loved or respected thought that I'm a loser. Number 6, it would be devastating if someone I loved or respected thought that I'm ordinary. Number 7, it would be devastating if someone I loved or respected thought that I'm a reject. Number 8, well, let me backtrack to number 7. So it's that I'm a reject. It's not that you are feeling rejected. It's that you are a person who could be a reject. Number 8, it would be devastating if someone I loved or respected thought that I'm selfish. Number 9, it would be devastating if someone I loved or respected thought that I'm stupid. And number 10, it would be devastating if someone I loved or respected thought that I'm weak. So those are your 10. And go ahead and jot down the 3 numbers that are the worst. The 3 numbers that are the worst. Ebony, number 1, number 2, and number 8. Eric, 2, 6, and 9. Darzilla, 6 and 10. Tanya, 4, 5, and 8. Joe Art, 1, 2, and 9. And Darzilla added number 9. Yes, yes. Excellent, excellent. All right. Now,
I didn't like any of them. I don't want to feel any of those things.
that's a good point. These all stink.
Put those up again, please. Button.
I'm getting there. I'm putting them up. I didn't want to
Yeah,
get ahead of
I don't want to be considered any of these.
Yeah.
None of those would be good for me.
No, that's true. And that's why it's a universal thing, is that none of these are great. Although I will say, I do have some people, especially with ordinary, who will say, I don't think there's anything wrong with being ordinary. Well, then that's not your trigger. But yeah, none of them are, humans don't want to feel any of these overall. And that's why these 10 were narrowed down as being the core triggers. But we are looking for the one, basically, which one feels like a gut punch? Which one feels like a gut punch? Out of the ones you've picked already. So look at the numbers that you've already picked. And which one feels like a gut punch? Let's see, Melanie. 20 years ago when I did the process or something like it, it was 2, that I'm incompetent. Still the worst, but also 1 and 9. Number 1 and 9. And number 2, that I'm incompetent, yes. Marin's number 3, number 8, and number 10. And Darzilla says number 10 is the worst for them, it seems like. Melanie, I love that you brought that up, because generally speaking, we say in Fearless Living, your wheel of fear never changes. It was established in you when you were really young. However, I do work with some clients who they can't face that trigger yet. So they might actually, I might know like, oh, this person is a selfish trigger, but they can't go there right now. So we land on weak or loser. Let's say loser. And they work with that one for a while, and then they dig down and see eventually if they keep working with the wheel, they'll get to their core one. So there's that. The other thing I want to mention based on what you said, Melanie, is that 9 and 1 are also rough. Those are probably your biggest fear responses. Okay. Can you remind me to come back to that in a second? Biggest fear responses? Because I want to narrow down before I address that last piece. It's your job. Joart, number 2 was the gut punch. Yeah. So if you happen, I want to do one more thing. If you happen to have 2 numbers that you just can't pick between, you can't decide, oh, it's this or this. I don't know. Well, number 1, it's always great to work with a coach, a Fearless Living coach, but you're here with me now. We do the sort of Russian doll method. Okay. So what I want is I'm looking for the biggest Russian doll of all. So as you peel them off, there's the little one inside, and I'm looking for the biggest one because it's the one that contains the other. So let me go back for a second to this. Let's say I'm waffling between, I'm not sure if it's stupid or incompetent. I can't tell. They both are awful. Does stupid contain incompetent? So is someone stupid also incompetent? Or does incompetent contain stupid? So someone is incompetent and they're also stupid. I know semantics, but it's literally what we're looking for, that sort of overarching one that contains the other.
Can you put that screen up real quick?
Which one? Oh, I didn't bring it up.
So when, we've talked about this many times, and I'm like, well, actually all of these are the same as number 9.
Yes. That's your biggest
Yeah,
Russian doll.
So for me, the biggest Russian doll is I'm stupid. And so all of the other ones seem like they all lead to the same conclusion.
So if you're weak, you're stupid. If you're selfish, you're stupid.
But I could see how someone could be oriented around like invisible. And all of those would be kind of point to the same conclusion. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So again, if you're in that situation, it's which one contains the others. Which one contains the others? Now, for me, my trigger is number 10. It is weak. And every time I teach a class on this, I go through them for myself. And sometimes I start to go, maybe. And I'm like, no, it's weak. It's weak. So for me, my next biggest one is right here. It is ordinary. It is ordinary is my next biggest one. So Melanie said 1 and 9 were big for her as well. 1 and 9. So we call those your biggest fear responses. So for me, my everything Russian dolls into weak, but man, I can experience fear responses if I'm seen as average, easily replaceable with nothing distinctive to contribute. That one can get me pretty good. But still, weak is the one. Weak is it. Weak is the word. Yes. Tanya says, I would really like to pick them all, right? Right. So it is literally picking the one. And this will be remain posted on our channel. So if you're still not sure, you can always listen to this again and see what comes up for you. So core trigger is the thing that is the main thing on that wheel we want to know. It's the piece on the wheel that's hardest to get, and we usually spend the most time on. So we're going to move on off of core trigger into fear responses, which is, let me bring up the wheel again here for a second. So we're moving on to number 2, right on top, fear responses. So fear responses are the immediate protective action that you take. They're actions or inactions to avoid being seen as your core trigger. So I'm going to use Eric here for a second. Oh, he's getting already. It's not that big of a deal.
Okay, I'm ready.
Okay. So it could be an inaction. So if Eric, whose trigger is stupid, he could avoid going into certain circles if he wasn't going to be the expert.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's not an action. Well, avoidance is kind of an action, but it's more of an inaction, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're staying away from those things. So that's all.
Agreed.
That is all. So, but I wanted to point out it could be an inaction, a protective inaction or action. It could be an action or inaction to prove your core trigger is not true. And fear responses will eventually backfire, leaving you feeling awful about yourself in some way. So my core trigger is weak. And so I will do, when I'm on my wheel of fear, I will do anything to prove that I'm strong, that I'm not weak. And that might be taking on too much. It might be doing things myself and who am I kidding? It is not asking for help because I don't need help. I can do it myself, right? These are all fear responses that I have. What eventually happens, though, is kind of what I said, my entire 30s, when I was so depleted, I'd spent my entire life eating gluten, but also eating bad diet, but also putting so much tremendous pressure on myself to juggle everything from an extremely young age in my single parent divorced household, extremely young age. So it eventually backfires in some way. So here are some common fear responses. Some aren't too bad. They're complaining, negative self-talk, excuses, making excuses, blaming, isolating, deflecting, procrastinating, which is even worse than procrastinating.
Apparently not editing.
No. Like I said, this is hot off the presses today. There was no proofreading. Manipulating, pretending, condemning, comparing, and settling are all very common ones. Let me pause for a second, though, because there was a time when not having the perfect slide deck to present to you and showing up as a very professional life coach would have been fear responses for me. Like I needed to prove that I had it together. And so like in the past, in my 20s, when I owned my dance studio, especially into my part of my 30s, holy cow, I could not let you see these mistakes because it felt like this major vulnerability that could be used against me in some way. So the fact that I've got typos, good. And by the way, I let that go a long time ago. So these are some common fear responses, but I mean, there are as many fear responses as there are people in the world, plus some probably. So go ahead and jot anything else down, but I'd like you to identify your top 3 fear responses. And mine was perfectionism, definitely perfectionism. Complaining, I'm going to say was one of my top ones, but I didn't complain out loud. Complaining out loud is weak in my perception. So I didn't complain out loud unless it was to trusted friends. But I complained in my head a lot. And perfectionism, saying yes to everything and not asking for help. Those are common fear responses, as I mentioned earlier. So go ahead. What are your top fear responses? And what's great is the more we share these, the more someone else might be like, oh, yeah, that one fits for me too. I've got that one. So Eric says overthinking, researching, and procrastinating. Yes. Now, we'll come back to that in a minute. Okay. Procrastinating, Darzilla, excuses, and settling. Yes, that is a big one. So go ahead, feel free to share. And in the meantime, I'm going to say, we mentioned this on one of our recent videos, that researching, so Eric's trigger is stupid. So some of his fear responses are overthinking and researching. Now, thinking can be a great thing, and researching can be a great thing. But you need to understand again, see yourself clearly so that you know when it's moving from a space that works for you and empowers you into a space that does not work for you and becomes disempowering or in some other way not helpful, harmful to your health or mental health or whatever it might be. Let's see, Melanie, explaining and teaching, making sure I'm an expert, yes, and researching, yes, yes. And again, some of those can be used for good, but you want to be really clear of when they cross over into the line that doesn't work. All right. So, do we have another? Joe Art, perfectionism, avoiding, and anger. Oh, yes. Remember, one of the symptoms is self-righteous. And so many of those symptoms, let me bring them up for a second again. So many of these symptoms seem like they make sense. I'm impatient, I'm exhausted, misunderstood, I'm paranoid, paralyzed, whatever. But when it comes to self-righteous, that's got a slightly different flavor.
Yeah, because you're right.
Because you're right. Yeah. And so for you to be able to admit that anger or self-righteousness, that those things are fear responses, is incredible, because that means you are doing the work to dig a little deeper even. Victimized is another one. People don't want to be seen as victimized. And after all, it's not my fault. Right? Oh, but any complaint you have, you're putting yourself as the victim. So there are a few here that just, they take a little more self-reflection maybe to really ponder and admit. Let's see. Marin, procrastination, overthinking, and perfectionism. Yeah, I tend personally to get a lot of perfectionists because they just show up at my door because it was one of my things. Yes. Tanya, procrastinating, negative self-talk, and overthinking. Yeah, negative self-talk was a pretty big one for me, but I wasn't someone who said, oh, you stupid moron, or, I didn't talk that way to myself. It was just that my expectations of myself were so high that it again had sort of a different flavor. So hard on myself. Marin says avoiding too. Yes. Yeah. All right. I need to scroll down to get to where we are. Now, what I would like you to do is really pay attention to your fear responses coming up, especially in the next week or so. There's good news and there's bad news. I'll start with the bad news. Once you understand the wheel of fear, very often you will start to see it everywhere. And you'll start to see more fear responses and you'll be like, oh my gosh. So that first week or so, it can feel like a lot. And I want you to just be gentle with yourself because, again, the good news is that this is being exposed to light. This is being exposed to light. Now that you know, you can't unknow.
It's like keto adaptation.
Yes. Yes, exactly. You're going to have Wheel of Fear flu this week. Not everybody gets it, but many do.
Well, just take some electrolytes.
Take some electrolytes, be gentle with yourself. And you might want to keep a little journal at the end of the day or just jot some things down. Just, again, it's expanding your awareness and making you more more, what can I use for a keto thing? It'll lead to more vitality. It'll lead to healthier mental thinking. It's going to be good. Just
Fix your
trust me.
mitochondria.
And it's good for your mitochondria. Yes. So we're going to move on then. Keep track of your fear responses. We're going to move on to your core negative feeling. This is usually the easiest part of the wheel of fear work. Because your core negative feeling is the worst feeling in the world. You hate this feeling. And we like to sort of say that the wheel of fear is like an operating system. Just one. We've got other operating systems, but it's one of our operating systems as a human. So when that system fails, you experience a hurt that wheel of fear was trying to prevent you from experiencing. It's that deep down hurt, that emotional meltdown that you try to avoid at all costs. Lots of typos in this one. The intolerable feeling that activates your self-destructive behaviors. It activates your self-destructive behavior. So let me go back for a moment. All right. So we're right here in number 3, the core negative feeling. Your fear responses backfire. You are put into your core negative feeling, which causes the self-destructive behaviors. But before we get ahead of ourselves with those self-destructive behaviors, we have 10 10 core negative feelings as well. So basically, I will read through these again to see if you get a visceral reaction, but you're looking for the worst feeling. And again, it's not usually, sometimes there are 2 that kind of tie, but usually you know. So number 1 is feeling unlovable. Number 2 is feeling like a disappointment. Number 3, feeling worthless. Number 4, helpless. I'm going to read these again too, so just hang on. Number 5, foolish. Number 6, inadequate. Number 7, insignificant. Number 8, like an outcast. Number 9, like damaged goods. And number 10, like a failure. Now I'm going to expand these definitions a little, and I'm just going to read them because I did not get this slide ready. All right. So number 1, you're feeling like a failure. I hope these go in order. Yeah. Or no, number 1, unlovable. They don't go in order. Number 1, unlovable, is the desolate ache of being inherently unworthy of being loved. Number 2, like a disappointment, the suffocating heaviness that hope leads only to heartbreak. Number 3, worthless, the empty void of contributing nothing of value to the world. Number 4 is helpless, the paralyzing dread that you have no control over what happens to you. Number 5 is foolish, the burning shame that others see through your inadequate facade. Number 6, inadequate, the persistent gnawing anxiety that no matter how hard you try, you are never enough. Number 7, insignificant, the hollow emptiness that your existence makes no difference to anyone. Number 8, like an outcast, the aching isolation of not truly belonging anywhere or with anyone. Number 9, like damaged goods, the inescapable heaviness of fundamental brokenness that can never be repaired. And number 10, like a failure, the crushing despair that no matter what you do, you fundamentally do not measure up. So I'll put those back up on the screen again. Which of these is the worst feeling in the world? And are you willing to share that? Now I'll talk to you about this, and you can put it in the chat if you'd like. When I already said our wheel of fear doesn't change. It's instilled in us when we are really young. But how something can sort of mask the other. So when I started Fearless Living 20 years ago, my worst feeling was like a failure. And then as time rolled on, I realized that one was a little lighter for me than feeling worthless. And this was actually after I experienced some periods of malaise and feeling depressed, and I realized that worthless was actually underneath feeling like a failure. But here's the thing, I would love for you to pick a word from this list, but there might be something worse. You might have a word for it. Ultimately, mine is pathetic. That is the worst feeling in the world for me. And if I have to map pathetic onto one of these words, worthless is the closest for me. So let's see. Eric, like a failure. Yep. Melanie's isn't on the list that I'm unloving, but the closest one would be like a disappointment, number 2. Yeah. Darzilla, helpless, paralyzing, the paralyzing dread that you have no control over what happens to you. Yes, helpless. Tanya is tied between outcast and damaged goods, which are very close. Yeah, very close. So you could do the Russian doll thing. Is there one that slightly edges it out? Or I'm okay with you keeping both of those.
It was kind of hard for me because I was foolish, kind of jumped out at me because it's related to being stupid.
Mm-hmm.
But it didn't have the same visceral impact when you read through the definitions.
Yeah, that is what you're looking for, is that visceral impact. So you may have noticed, like I can feel it. Core negative feeling is one of the easiest thing on the wheel of fear usually. But it brings this heaviness to the session when we get there. So I'll say this again before we're done. I want to really be clear that you are not your wheel of fear. We always reassure our clients, you are not worthless or helpless or a failure. You're not a loser or stupid or weak or inadequate or insignificant or any of those words, right? That you're probably the opposite of those because you've spent your whole life proving you're not that thing. But this is what fear wants us to believe, is that we are our wheel of fear. Because when we believe we're our wheel of fear, we don't move outside our comfort zone. We don't take those risks. We can stay safe and stuck and small. So again, knowledge is power. When you know this, then you can choose differently. So let's move on to the next level. The next component on the wheel of fear, which is the self-destructive behaviors. We're in number 4. So you're feeling this incredible pain of your core negative feeling. And you want to escape from the pain in some way. You want to numb it, hide from it, avoid it, escape it. So we do these counterproductive, desperate protocols that happen when nothing else has worked. You're at your lowest. And again, it's to numb that pain. So they're the actions or inactions that create real life consequences that seem to reinforce that your trigger is true. So going back up to our wheel of fear here, when we engage in those self-destructive behaviors, it only seems to prove our trigger is true. So in my 30s, when I'm spending most of my day in bed because I wrung myself out for 30 years, trying to do everything, not asking for help, overworking, negative self-talk, being hard on myself, not taking breaks, saying yes, and I wind up in my bed flat on my back for most of my 30s, what do I seem to be? I seem to be weak. It just seems to prove everything the wheel of fear wants me to think. So let's go ahead and look at some of these self-destructive behaviors. I'm going to have a short list you may have your own. So self-destructive behaviors can be overeating, drinking, drugs, shopping addictions. Oversleeping was a big one for mine before I had the crash. Like once I crashed, I was sleeping all the time, but it wasn't an avoidance. It was because I was exhausted. But when I was younger, I would oversleep. Cutting, smoking and vaping, binging social media, binging news, right? Self-righteous, picking fights, overworking. I'd put perfectionism in here too. Some of your fear responses might be self-destructive behaviors as well if you do them more frequently or with more intensity. They can also be self-destructive behaviors. So if you're willing, go ahead and share some of your self-destructive behaviors. So again, mine were oversleeping, overworking. I've got to be careful of saying yes. That's a fear response. I wouldn't put that in self-destructive. But I remember when we were going on a trip and I had a dance show at the same time and I was staying up all night to get the packing done and stuff. Not a good move. Not a good move. Eric says it used to be overeating, but maybe distraction seeking. Yes, that is another one. Just any distraction seeking. Again, you're trying to avoid. Yeah. Busy work, thinking, and non-urgent projects, in quotes. Yeah. And I do see we've gotten a couple more core negative feelings come in. Marin, like a disappointment. Yep. Worthless, but failure's a close second for Joe Art. Yep. Overeating, video gaming. Yes, yes. Watching hours of TV, complaining. Yeah, absolutely.
Complaining as a hobby is
Yeah.
a pretty common pastime.
It is. And the reason it's self-destructive is, again, the intensity and frequency can be, but also when you can push the responsibility off on someone else, you never have to take action. You get to stay on your wheel of fear and never take responsibility for that. Yeah, absolutely. Melanie, I worked on this for many years, so I don't have a lot of self-destructive behaviors, but overworking is still a risk. I love the way you put that. Yeah. Once you know this, again, you don't tend to get caught up in it as much at all. And there can still be those risks. So I love the way you put that. Yeah. I don't get down into self-destructive much either anymore, I would say. Again, we want to catch that pattern sooner. Overworking, says Joe Art, using food as substances. Yes, yes. And what I realized, I'll say food for me as well. And this was always interesting, and I made this distinction in the past, but more recently I've realized. So I never considered myself an emotional eater, and that I don't eat when I'm sad. Like if there's I don't eat when I'm angry. Like there isn't an emotional component. But when I am tired, that is when I want to eat. And I want to eat sugar. I mean, in the past, that would be when I'd have the Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola is what propped me through my 30s and kept me driving safely without passing out, was having the sugar and the caffeine in that Coca-Cola. So I would say I'm not an emotional eater. I'm an energy eater. But you know what that does? Is if I'm able to drive because I'm eating the sugar and the caffeine, I'm avoiding looking weak. So then it feeds back into that core trigger. So it is kind of a self-destructive behavior as well. Yeah. Tanya, overeating, drink, drugs, watching TV, smoking, vaping, anything that is damaging to me. Yep. Yep, exactly. Were you going to say something, Eric?
Well, that's self-medication.
Yes. Self-medicating.
So it's a numbing out.
Yeah.
Or a stimulating up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good point. Yeah, numbing out, stimulating up. Very good. Yeah. Darzilla says, I recently read that complaining is a form of playing the victim. I am working on stopping that habit. It's one of the reasons I'm here tonight. That's great to hear. Excellent. I'm going to give you I'm going to give you something in a minute. Overeating, oversleeping, watching TV, and isolating. Marin, yes. Yeah. Linda says, I want to eat junk food when tired, bored, or negative emotions. I've never wanted junk food for positive emotions. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, that's so interesting.
Yeah, it is. And yes. Tanya says, number 100% numbing out. Yes. Uh-huh. Yeah. So I want to talk about.
This is an awesome audience, by the way.
Yes.
You sharing this stuff, because this is really personal stuff.
Yeah, we and really appreciate it, because what you're doing is helping others too. I've been doing this a long time, and the more we are able to share in community, the more we are able to help others, and that they can see themselves in you, and they go, there it is. Yeah. So yeah, excellent. So let me first state that you are not your wheel of fear. I want to state it again and again. You are not your wheel of fear at all. Because remember, this is a predictable pattern. It's a biological program or operating system that we all have as human beings. And knowledge is power. We're looking at reduced reactivity, pattern interrupts, and the freedom to choose to pivot and choose differently, or to just choose, today I'm staying here. Today I'm choosing. But either way, you are making the conscious choice. So you've probably heard that saying that what you resist persists, right? So awareness is key in fearless living. So I love, who was it about the complaining again? Darzilla. So in fearless living, we don't say stop complaining. Stop the perfectionism, everyone. Stop doing this, stop doing that, because that tends to just sort of ignite it a little bit more. And because this is a protective pattern that we've had our entire lives, it's hard to just stop. And we don't want to create a situation where you're then blaming yourself, like, oh, I'm not doing my wheel of fear. I'm not working my wheel of fear good enough. So you've got negative self-talking going on. So what we want to do is notice and then pivot. Notice, pivot, right? So what?
Pivot!
Yes. Oh, I need Ross here. I'll need to put that next time I do these slides. Notice and pivot. So if you notice yourself complaining, what you do is you do a gratitude, period. It's no beating yourself up, no regret, no shame, no nothing like that. You go, I just complained about the grocery store clerk. But holy cow, I love that this store has clerks still. Some of the stores I go into don't have clerks, and I have to do self-checkout myself, which is fine when I've got 5 items, but holy cow, I'm glad when I've got a cart full that there's a clerk there to check me out. So you just follow up the thing you noticed with a proactive behavior, a proactive pivot. So for me, if I notice that I feel burdened, my proactive pivot, again, isn't to say, here I am again, taking on too much. My proactive pivot is to ask for help. Even if it's not for the thing I'm working on, to ask for help somewhere. Can you please do this for me? So what is the proactive pivot that you can take? Perfectionism. Proactive pivot was when I stopped scripting everything. I used to script a lot of my talks and my teaching. Now I don't, right? It's a proactive pivot for me. It's not shaming myself for doing it, but it's a pivot. Whenever we have negative self-talk, the proactive pivot is to celebrate something that you did. So just pivot. Pivot. Mm-hmm.
So is it automatically the opposite of whatever the destructive behavior is, or the self? Yeah.
It can be automatically sort of the opposite. We do have to be careful though, because you have to be careful that you don't pivot against your trigger. So for me, my trigger's weak. So my pivot does not want to be looking strong. That would be a counterproductive pivot.
So you'd want a vulnerability pivot?
I'd want a vulnerability pivot, which would be asking for help, making a mistake,
So
giving myself credit for something that feels like I shouldn't give myself credit for it.
So if my self-destructive behavior is distraction, then the pivot needs to be like refocusing on something.
It might be staying with it. Yeah. It might be staying with
So the pivot's not easy.
the feeling.
Staying with the feeling.
Uh-huh.
Well, I don't want to do that.
Because that's, so let me put this back up. So your fear responses, number 2, are trying to counteract your trigger. Okay. So looking vulnerable, looking weak, looking,
Okay, so my
Right.
trigger is stupid. My core negative feeling is what? Failure?
yes.
Feeling like a failure.
Yes.
So the destructive behavior is
But hold on.
Okay.
Just let me pause for a second. So the trigger is about not looking a certain way. It's a thought. If someone thinks I'm this way or I think I'm this way, it's bad news. The core negative feeling is a feeling.
okay.
So if you're addressing a self-destructive behavior situation and making a pivot, it might be working with the feeling because it's directly related to feeling.
Okay, so I don't like these feelings at all.
Right.
That's
Right.
yeah.
Right. So it might be staying with the feeling or venting the feeling in a different way. Okay. Let me put up the wheel of fear for a second because I'm going to go grab something.
She literally left the room. She's getting something. Oh.
I have had this wiffle bat for probably about 18 years. It made the move with me. I almost got rid of it, but it made the move with me. I had a coach challenge me when I was in my coach certification program, challenged me to actually use a tennis racket or a wiffle bat and beat the tar out of the bed mattress. And so I bought this years ago and I still have it because it might be about venting the feeling as well. And that's a way to vent. You can also vent to a trusted friend or family member. He's getting rid of the bat. So yeah, if it's a feeling, you're going to stay with it and allow it to process without overthinking. You're not thinking, you're just staying with the feeling and not thinking or venting out the feeling. Could be journaling too. I know you journal as well.
Sometimes excessively.
Sometimes it moves into overthinking.
So Joe Art's asking here.
What about for self-medicating?
In all its forms.
So it's going to be about addressing the feeling. It is going to be, instead of medicating the feeling, it is about addressing the feeling. And I do not, I would work with you on, is that talking to someone? Is that a therapist? Is that watching a really sad movie and crying your eyes out? What can you do that isn't medicating, but that is somehow facing and venting the feeling differently? Now, what's interesting is we just saw an interview with Dr. Jill Bolte Taylor, whose work has been around for a very long time, 15 years, something like that. I don't know. She is a brain scientist who had a stroke, and her book, A Stroke of Insight, is phenomenal. And she's got a newer book out too that I'm not remembering right now the name of. But you can also look up her YouTube interviews and so forth. Dr. Jill Bolte, Bolte Taylor, Taylor, I believe. But when she had the stroke, part of her brain was wiped out. I'm going to try to keep this fast. Kept her in the present moment. She wasn't able to think anymore for a long time. She wasn't able to have thoughts that stayed with her and kept feelings alive. And what she discovered is that a feeling, if we don't keep it alive with our thoughts, a feeling will move through our body in about 90 seconds. And I've tested it, and it's true. And it can get really intense in that 90 seconds. But if we don't think about it and keep it alive, a feeling passes through us. Now, again, get the help you need around feelings. If you need a therapist or a friend or journaling or venting or whatever it might be, I'm not saying to take this lightly, but it is true that a feeling will pass through your system very quickly.
I think one of the techniques is practicing before you're in the worst
Yes.
phase of this.
Yes.
It's not something that's easily done when you're already got the momentum of the Wheel of Fear going.
Yeah. Yeah. And the other thing is you want to celebrate every movement forward. So if you're in your self-destructive behavior and you go, oh, wait a minute, I'm in my self-destructive behavior. I'm going to go eat a box of Oreos. You don't beat yourself up over eating the box of Oreos. You go, I recognize my self-destructive behavior. And if next time it takes you 20 seconds before you reach for the self-medicating item, you celebrate the 20 seconds. So you're building momentum based on any movement forward at all. And this is how Rhonda moved out of her worst periods. She would give herself literally a gold star on a calendar. Seriously, she would give herself a gold star for any forward movement in frequency, length, and intensity. So anytime something's not showing up as much, you give yourself a star. If it's not showing up for as long, you give yourself a star. If it's not as intense, you give yourself a star. It is super, super important to celebrate yourselves. This is coming from someone who is was a perfectionist, right? Very hard on myself. This is the key to building momentum. And you're right. Practice it when you're not at your lowest. Practice it when you're not at your lowest. Yeah.
Right, because if you've had, like somebody's actually saying this, wow, only 90 seconds.
Yeah.
If you've had like anxiety attack or a panic attack, these are physiologically self-continuing.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah, that's
yes.
a totally different thing. You can't just wait that out. There's
Good point.
But if I was, for instance, if I was caught myself going into this distraction mode, and you were saying you need to actually stay with not allow the distraction, but stay with the feeling that's wanting to be distracted. I shouldn't expect to be victorious the first time.
No.
But any incremental progress.
Any incremental progress.
I could acknowledge that I've made an improvement.
Yes, and you have to, because the Wheel of Fear is going to sweep right in and tell you didn't do it well. You didn't do it good enough. Yeah. Tanya, I saw her interview. That's the one we saw too. Diary of a CEO. Amazing, joyful lady. Yeah. She. I've been using that 90-second rule with clients forever because it's really incredible. But I do love that you pointed out the physiological, because I've experienced that, not myself, but I know you do. And that's important. So yeah, but you have to give yourself credit and you're actually rewiring your brain, because calling the Wheel of Fear this operating system is true. It is our biologic imperative to survive. And so it is wired in us. And so you are actually rewiring your brain as you do these things. So you can start small. And that is still rewiring your brain to be able to pause, to recognize and pause without having the automatic reaction. Excellent. Yes. So let me see if I've got anything else here. Yeah, I just want to talk about the transformation. Let me know if you have any questions. I'm going to give you a few moments to put any of your questions here in the chat. And I'm going to bring this up one more time about the transformation. Okay, so this is really not about fixing yourself. This is about seeing yourself clearly. And it's also, as I mentioned, it's about mastering your fear. We're never going to get rid of it. We're never going to get rid of it. So you can make great gains right away. So I don't want to be like, you'll notice this in about 5 years' time. No. When I hired my first life coach, 12 weeks later, my life was on a whole new trajectory because I had decided that I did not want to own my dance studio anymore. I'd had it for almost 9 years, and I had decided that it was time to just teach. I didn't want the business side of things, and that I wanted to become a life coach. So my life was on a whole new trajectory in 12 weeks. My relationship with my business partner, even though she was taking over the whole business, right, was transformed. I wish we'd had that relationship when we were actually business partners because I was speaking in a whole different way. And instead of just doing things and feeling resentful, she noticed that I was using the word willing, which is another fearless living tool to check in with what you're willing to do. For those of you who say yes when you shouldn't, when you mean no, what are you actually willing to do? And so she'd say, can you take my class tomorrow? And I'd be like, yeah, I'm willing to do that. Can you take the one the next day? No, I'm not willing to do that. She noticed that I started using the word willing and hired her own fearless living coach. So our relationship completely transformed. My career trajectory shifted. And this is this thing that I still use today. Let me pull this up. I am still using this today. Personally, it is my foundational map. No matter what I've learned, it always comes back to the wheel of fear. It's how I make decisions and how I move through the world. And then professionally, it's what I do as well. So again, I don't want to say, it's going to take years for you to master your wheel of fear. And I do want to let you know that it is a practice. It is a practice. You can see gains right away, especially after you have your initial wheel of fear flu the next week or two. So you can see gains right away, and you will continue to see them if you keep working your wheel and checking in with that wheel. You will continue to see them for years to come, and your life can be completely transformed. So,
did you cover the response?
I did cover that. Yes. Yes.
And you were going to talk about complaining.
So for complaining, we talked about the pivot, the proactive pivot, and I'm not sure I exactly said, for complaining, it's a gratitude. Yes, I did. Okay. And here's the thing about gratitudes and fearless living and acknowledging yourself if you can. So many people count their blessings and do acknowledgments about, yay, I did this today. I'm proud of myself for doing that. But you want to actually get granular in these things. We are rewiring our brain. So you want to be as specific as you can. So if you're triggered, it might be, yeah, and I'm grateful there's an open cashier line, right? You're triggered, that's all you've got. But then begin to challenge yourself with more details. I am so grateful for the cashier. They are able to scan things so quickly, and I'm able to put things up as they're doing it, and it's incredible. And there's that one cashier, they never, I was going to say bruise my bananas, but you're probably not eating bananas on this channel. That's an old one I had. I used to get so mad at cashiers who bruised my bananas. But point being, you want to bring in as much detail so that if you read this gratitude or this acknowledgement for yourself 5 years from now, you could put yourself back into that moment. Because as many have said, and Dr. Jill Bolte Taylor does too, the more you involve your senses in something, the more you're able to carve that new neural pathway. So specifics, gratitudes that are specific are best. And if all you can say in the moment is, I'm grateful it's sunny out today, good for you. All right. Any question? Oh, thank you. Melanie says hit like. Tanya will share with her daughter as we are working on ourselves and share what we find and believe will help each other. Awesome. Well, I do want to mention one thing. We may do another event in the future. This was great. I would love to do something else. I don't have the capacity through the end of the year for a whole lot right now. So what I would love to, oh, hold on. This just in. Linda, I just looked up. Google says the TV show Starting Over is on Amazon Prime Video. If it is, that would be amazing. Yes, I would love that. There's also Summer. Her name is Summer. She has a YouTube channel. If I thought about this ahead of time, I'd have it. She also has her season on YouTube. That's the only one I found on YouTube so far. So her name is Summer. You can also check that out. We can post it somewhere as well afterwards. So she has some of those episodes. And then I also want to mention, just this past week ago, I think, Rhonda rolled out a Wheel of Fear quiz. A Wheel of Fear quiz. So we've done the work here today. But you can also take her quiz at fearlessliving.org/quiz. This is free. It does put you into the Fearless Living funnel. But she does have autoresponders that follow up on that also go into the Wheel of Fear. So you might want to check those out. And yeah, just I'm in her funnel. Like, I teach things for her as well. So it might be something you're interested in. But that's just hot off the presses is the Wheel of Fear quiz. She used to you'd have to use her book or work with a coach or come to a workshop to get your Wheel of Fear. And she's decided that she wants to put it out there in an even bigger level. So now we've got a quiz, and she's working on a new book too. So that goes into both the Wheel of Fear and the Wheel of Freedom, which we didn't discuss today in more depth. So yeah. Anything else?
Yeah, Gerard says.
Oh, yes, please. This has been amazing. That'll give us time to apply what we've learned today. Good point. Yes, work on integrating that Wheel of Fear. And I'm thinking the next one, well, I've got a couple options for the next one, so I'm not going to say. I'm not going to say. There are several directions we can go in. But yeah, so we'll keep you posted on that. So thank you so much for tuning in. Just making sure there are no more questions or anything. Okay. Thank you so much for tuning in and for participating with me today. Thank you, Eric, for being my producer on the sidelines and not freaking out when I wasn't down here like 2 minutes before we were scheduled to go live. Thank you so much. And we will be back with our regular programming early in the week. So yeah, tomorrow or Tuesday, right?
Yep.
Monday or Tuesday. All right. Until then, see you then. Bye-bye.
JJ and Eric, their lipids are high. Their doctors are worried they're both gonna die. Is LDL harmless? They sure hope it's so. It's the JJ and Eric Carnivore Show. Salad is toxic, seed oils are doom. They rub on tallow like greasy perfume. Ribeyes and bacon, that's all they know. It's the JJ and Eric Carnivore Show. No wheat, no kale, they're laughing at greens. 18-hour fasts are their favorite routines. Sugars for suckers, they're chomping on fat. Streaming to you live from a tallow vat. Eric's got muscles, JJ's got zen. They're coming to chat with their carnivore friends. So toss out the lettuce, embrace the beef glow. It's the JJ and Eric